interest rates went up again. TLT dropped. Crazy Bitcoin's over 50K. These rate cuts don't seem to be working out too good for what the market priced in. Caused the market to sell off, but then it ripped back up after hitting like the 20-day simple moving average on a couple of the futures and a couple of the indexes. Market's just nuts. Bears have a really hard time sustaining lower prices. It just seems to that's the theme. It just, you know, we were very frothy in the market, and this catalyst from CPI made us pull back again, right? So frothy we just basically cut the froth off the top. Now, is this going to continue to move higher now? Now this gives us like a pullback, right? I don't know what happens from here. It's just, this market's so crazy. And like I was saying in my title, does the market look like at this as another buy to dip? Right? Like now I think we're down to 3 rate cuts are priced in now. So very, very interesting. Okay. Without further ado, welcome to my channel. My name is Steven Gonzalez. I use volume profile, market profile to find structure in the market, along with Gabber exposure levels, supply and demand, and the most traded price of the year, the rolling month, the rolling week, and the previous day. Helps me find structure in the market. Also use anchored VWAPs, right? They just play an important role, and a lot of those things that I mentioned are like actually what you see in the market. They're not lagging indicators or you know it it's just is what it is. When you see as volume trading at a certain price, that is a fact. It's not an interpretation. It's not time based. It's literally that's the most traded price, right? Anchored VWAP, same thing. It's the average buyer, the average seller from a certain point. There's no disputing it. That's what I love about those indicators that I mentioned, right? It's just there is no interpretation of it. It just is what it is. So, without further ado, if you want to subscribe and set alert, please do. All right. Even if you like what you see, give me a thumbs up. That'd be much appreciated. You could always follow me on X, and that's @Gonzo719. All right. So let's just get right into the watch list here, the futures, and let's see what we have going on here. We have Bitcoin at 51,925. That is up 4.6%. So we blew past 50K. Ether is up 4.44. Russell took a huge dip yesterday with the yields, 10-year yield rising, because that's a little more sensitive, those small cap companies, but now it's up 1.28%. So that Russell's just a wild thing. Nasdaq's up 0.66, ES up 0.51, the Dow's up 0.32, crude's up 0.28, 30-year bonds up 0.11. That's not much. 10-year yield will report after 8:20. The dollar is down 0.11. Okay, gold down 2.21, holding that 2K. That 2K got threatened yesterday. Silver's down 0.27. The VIX down 5.8%. 5.8%. So fear has risen. All right. It went to 15. It was at 15 just earlier this morning. It was higher yesterday. So fear came back up a little bit. But that friggin' end of the day rip rally, it just makes you go like, what is going on? Like, probably has a lot to do with the zero DTEs. So, which changed our market. Just those zero DTEs, and the big boys play with those. So that's going to move markets. Okay. Let's move on to the Mag 7 Plus. Of course, coin up 6.85%. Nvidia's back. Unbelievable. Nvidia up 1.46. Snow's up 1.4. Baba's up 1.4. Netflix 1.27. AMD 1.2. Roblox up 1.09. Meta's up 1%. I mean, everything in the Nasdaq is just ripping. I mean, look at this. I mean, crazy. There is no laggard. Nuts. Nuts. And Nvidia still didn't report earnings. They believe, let's see what they report. 221. Okay, coin reports 215 tomorrow. So interesting. All right, let's move on to the top sector stocks. No surprise here. Qualcomm up 1.18%. Salesforce up 1%. Then you got Exxon, UPS, and then is there laggards? There is. Home Depot is down 0.16 and Walmart down 0.46. Now I did see Walmart. I'm not sure if it's a done deal or not, but looking to purchase Vizio. So usually when a company purchases something, it's actually looked as a, I guess, for lack of a better term, a liability, because it's a purchase. So Vizio, I'm assuming, moved higher. And they're doing a stock split still. That's coming up. That will happen on 226, the stock split. Okay. Now, looking at my swing trades, my swing trade list, because you had a lot of earnings come out. Well, yesterday after the close and this morning. So let's take a look at that. Who's the big winner? Lyft. Lyft had better than expected earnings. They actually had some typo in some of their numbers that said it was like a 500 bips increase or something like that. It actually went up 60%. I think the algos took it and it pushed up 60%, but then once that was made a 50 bips, it came back down to earth, but still up a lot, 20.77%. Hood also reported earnings. They're up 14.61%. Mara is a monster right now with crypto. Bitcoin up 12.56. Riot, same thing. Uber, just mentioned buybacks. They're up 8.28%. Mentioned buybacks also probably in sympathy with Lyft. MicroStrategy, obviously Bitcoin. ARM, semis. This is the ETF for the Bitcoin. Affirm, AI. I mean, this is just Super Microcomputer, which has been another monster, up 2.84. Tilray, obviously that's marijuana. PGR, what am I forgetting? I think that's insurance. Off the top of my mind. Carvana, ARC. I mean, the list goes on and on. Lucid, Enphase, Shop did report earnings. They took a, glad I got out of that, right? That's why I get out of those earnings. Dash. So the market's looking very bullish, right? If we're looking at negatives, we have MGM reported earnings. They're down 4.18%. Airbnb, they reported earnings. They're down 3.69%. And look at this. That's it. Oh, this is a long list. That's the only negative on the board. So crazy, crazy, crazy. Let's go to, sorry. Let's go to sectors. We have semiconductors just leading the charge. All right, semiconductors equal risk on. XLK is at 0.74, XLE 0.59, communication 0.59. I mean, this is just buying everywhere. Like I said, is this another dip? It's like craziness, right? And then I already went over it, but just for the indexes like IWM, QQQ, SPY, and Dow, big leader is the Russell. Well, the Russell took a big hit, and now it's up 1.14. It's just wild. The Russell's wild. So, but it is the leader this morning by far, by almost doubling the other ones. So that is the watch list, right? Let's get into some news and some economic calendar stuff. Let's look at the calendar today. Now, this is always, I don't really know the answer to this, but this PPI, There's usually like two PPI. I don't understand this. It's like today there's PPI, but Friday's really the official PPI. I don't fully understand it. Um, but that's what's going on at 8:30. Fed's will be speaking at 9:30 a.m. at the market open. Then you have crude inventories. Then at the close, you got Fed Bar, Fed Bostic at 7 p.m. Tomorrow, retail sales, initial jobless claims in New York Empire State Manufacturing Index, Philly Fed, retail, and then at 10 a.m. business inventories in the housing market index, and then Fed Waller. So that's what's going on. Okay. As far as upgrades and downgrades, there wasn't much. Well, interesting. There were some downgrades today that were interesting. Upgrades, Citigroup's the only notable one in Lyft. Downgrades, which was kind of interesting, was Waste Management, which had good earnings. Ulta, Twilio, these are downgrades for today. So interesting. After Waste Management just had good earnings. Let's go to the juice. All right, so it says the UK CPI year over year, actual 4, forecast 4.1. So the UK did better than us. That's really about it there. We look over here real quickly. Uber announced a 7 billion buyback. Talked about that. Robinhood surges on surprise quarter four profit. One thing to note is in futures, Cocoa. I mean, if I'm saying that right, I think I'm saying that right. Cocoa. It's been surging. So Hershey and Cadbury are going to raise prices. You can see Lyft here rises as cost cuts to drive positive free cash flow. I'm trying to see. I don't think I read anything else here. That was a note that I didn't say already about earnings. Looks like Coca-Cola. JP Morgan raises target price from 66 from 64. Obviously Lyft got an upgrade, and then AIG also reported Morgan Stanley raises target price from 72 from 71. That's about it, I believe, that I wanted to talk about there. We can get into the daily charts. Just give me one sec while I pull that up. All right, let's get into those dailies. All right, let's look at the SPY together. All right, so what do we do here? All right, let's go from here. All right, so we gapped down, huge gap, right? Huge gap, opened here, right there, opened, closed right there. So we went down all the way. If you notice on the express chart I used, the orange lines are the previous week's highs and lows. The whites are the previous month. So we came down almost to last week's lows. Okay, from this breakout point. Boop. We went all the way back down to last week's lows. Didn't quite hit the 20-day simple moving average. We did close underneath the 9 EMA on the daily. And we broke this trend line, but then closed right above it. Right? That was that rip and rally into the close. Okay? That's what we're looking at there. Okay, so we got support where we should have got support. Last month's highs, last week's lows, didn't hit the 20. Right? Where are we at now? 496.40. 496.40, right at the highs of yesterday. Okay, right at the highs of yesterday. So you have a gap unfilled here to see. That's really the question: is what do we do with this gap today? Do we fill it, or do we go lower, or do we stay sideways? Really don't know. We'll get into that with the market profile and buying profile in the futures. Let's look at Qs. Okay, so what would the Qs do? The Qs, when I saw this come down here to the 20-day simple moving average, and look at that, right to the tick, right to last week's lows, broke this trend, right? But came right down to last week's lows and the 20-day simple moving average. If you look to the left, this is that double bottom here. These two candles right there. That's where it came down to. So when I saw this, I was like, okay, is this market really going to push lower? And it didn't. Okay. So we winded up opening here and closing here in the Qs. Okay, and Nvidia really, there was a lot of names that stayed strong. Nvidia didn't really go down that much. So I believe it was like a not, didn't even, I think it was, let's see here. Yeah, literally, I think it was down barely anything. Okay, so where are we at now with the Qs? 431. 431. So that is right at the highs. Right at the highs, yesterday's highs, right? What happens to be last month's highs. Okay, underneath the 9 EMA, hit the 20. Okay, so that's the question as well, is this big gap. This big gap. What do we do with this big gap? Okay. All right, let's move on to the bond market. Let's move on to the bond market. So, all right. So, let's look at the bond market. All right, so the bond market yesterday, woof, look at that candle. Those yields rose all the way up to 4.3. So this is the range I was talking about, right? And boom, big candle up. And we're holding that now. The 10-year yield is actually only down 0.25, but this is a huge move in yields. Okay, basically now you're well above the 200-day moving average, and you're starting to curl this 50-day. All right, so if we continue to go higher, that's going to put weight on the stock market. All right, very, very interesting. Now we can actually look at the VIX, because there might be a tiny bit of fear, and you can see that right here. News dropped just now. I hear some large orders in my ear. But let's see the high yesterday. The high yesterday was almost 18. And we're back all the way down to 14.93 right now. So this is the candle now. We broke the 200-day moving average, and now we're back underneath it. Okay. The dollar should have had a big rise yesterday as well, which it did here. Pushed up. We're in this range. We broke out of the range. Okay. And now we're here. So the bond market and the dollar made a big move yesterday. Also pushed gold down. So these rate cuts that they were counting on 6 down to 3 now, and inflation is proven to be sticky. So we just have to see what happens here. Okay. Let's move on. Let's move on to market profile, volume profile. Now I know those numbers just dropped. We might as well look at it. Let's just see what the market. I hear these orders going off. And that's that PPI month over month. For some reason, let's see here, 830. So maybe these were the, I don't know, I'm confused. Honestly, I'm confused because it says PPI today, right? So core, let's see here. Core PPI month over month. See, I don't think these are the official numbers, but these are numbers for PPI. Just so you know what I'm talking about. if you look at Friday this week, right here, PPI. So it just always confuses me a little bit, the two different PPIs. So anyway, we can look at the futures. We'll just look at the futures to see what's going on here. Whatever that was caused a little selling, okay? And we'll just look at structure. Look at what this market did. Okay. So we got an ugly profile here. Obviously we were up, right? You got the most traded price up there. Oh, that's the 24 hours. Then you got this gap. Then this is the trading from yesterday and this morning. So a very ugly profile. Okay. The most traded price of the week is here. And this box right here is from real-time trading hours. I don't want to confuse anybody. The big level still is 49.16. That's the most traded price a year to date and of this month. That's a big level. Okay. So if you look at that, where are we? We're still above the most traded price of the month and the year. Okay. We are below the most traded price of the week. Okay. We are below the week-to-day VWAP. See, look at that right here. That week-to-day VWAP acted as a resistance just now. Okay, and when this is red, that means sellers are in control for the week, right? But yesterday, notice this. Here's the month-to-date VWAP. We broke that yesterday. Yesterday, we were all the way down here. So it turned red, and now it's back to green because we're back above it. So we're in between both VWAPs. Okay. What else is going on here? Okay, how do we interpret this? This is a gap up in futures. Now the gap fill is here. Now, what else do we have? We have the big gap that was put in from CPI right here. So this doesn't count as filling anything because this is the overnight. Okay. So we basically started to fill that. Well, you don't fill it in overnight. So, but I'm saying we came into this gap, the overnight, hit week-to-day VWAP and got rejected. Okay, but we're still gapping up. So this is our gap fill. So we're gapping into a gap. Okay. Now, if we look at inventory from the overnight, okay, we opened here. The short activity is that. So all this long. And we're kind of at the top of the range. Okay. We're about 95% net long in the overnight. So you have longs from here who bought the bottom, went all the way up, we closed here, and then you have longs all the way involved up to here. So this could cause to get some corrective activity if the market starts to go down, right? These longs are probably going to start covering, start liquidating their positions. And that doesn't mean it's bearish, it just means that we're going to take care of these longs, get some corrective activity, possibly, okay? So this makes it very difficult, just because you're gapping into a gap. We're in between these VWAPs, okay? But right now it's very interesting. So you got the gap fill here. So it's interesting what's going to do here. All right, I talk about this a lot. You got gap rules. Okay, gap and go. Most bullish. A failure to fill the gap and go. Well, not gap and go, but failure to fill the gap and move up, that's bullish. Fill the gap, that's still bullish. If you go higher, once you go back into range, that's where you find out the buyers are not that strong. Okay. Now, on this big CPI, if you notice, there's a lot of single prints here. That's emotional selling, and you can tell the volume's very thin here, and you can tell in the composite here is very thin here. It's a pocket. So if you have any kind of strength, you can literally zip right through this gap. Okay, you can sell right through it. All right, so I'm trying to look at this because this is not the easiest when you're gapping into a gap. Okay, you have demand zone here. Okay, I really don't think this is the easiest thing right now to look at. Okay, but we can get into scenarios. Let's see what we can gather from this. Okay, so the thing that I see really is we're below the most traded price of the week, but above the most traded price of the month. So we're just in the middle and gapping into a gap. So the first thing I would say is to look at well, let's look at the bullish scenario first. Okay, let's talk about that because we're gapping up. Obviously, for myself, even if it pushed up a little bit, got resistance from week to day VWAP, you can come in and you fill that gap and you see a bounce. Even in this, then you can possibly move up into this gap and you'll probably get some resistance here at the most traded price of the week. And then you got a supply zone and you can see if you can work your way to fill the gap. Okay, obviously this is a little less bullish, but if we did come in here, and like I said, because all this inventory is long, you could come in here to monthly VWAP, hit this demand zone. Okay, try to break the overnight low, and this could also be the thing that fuels the market. Okay, that's what I'd be looking at. Okay, now as far as bearish, you do have a week to day VWAP here, and you do have the most traded price here, and you have this gap in single prints here. So like I said, we could also gap and go, hit the most traded price in the order supply zone, then you get selling ensuing. If we break the week to day VWAP, you could find yourself going all the way back down here. And then if you held that and broke that, we could see ourselves testing yesterday's lows. Okay, now this is by no means like, wow, this is my setup right now. I'll be straight with you. This is not something, the way the market's set up right now, this isn't something where I'm like, oh man, this is such a big edge. It's kind of tough read to sell off, and now you're gapping into the gap from yesterday. It's like, what is going to happen today? Okay, that's just me being honest. I can't tell you every day that it looks, oh man, this is like a perfect setup. I know exactly what's going to happen. It doesn't really work like that. Okay, so let's look at the NASDAQ and let's see if it differs at all. It does. Structure's different. The structure's different on the NASDAQ. I might even like it better, but I analyze live with you guys, so let's look at it together. All right, so here's the profile. So now, in this scenario with the NASDAQ, here's a look at the profile. Got distribution, got a gap, right? The most traded price is up here. The most traded price of the year and the month is right here. Let's just call it 17,700. That's a big level that we broke yesterday. But then the market came back and no surprise closed at the most traded price of the year. But now we find the price here, right? Not a gap. It's right at yesterday's highs. Okay. So again, we're in the middle of two big levels, right? Most traded price of the year and month down here, price is above it, right? Below the most traded price of the week. So it's this market right here, just like how these levels help me, it makes me look at it and go, okay, we're kind of in the middle of two major levels. Week to day VWAP's here. Sellers in control for the week. Month to date VWAP, buyers are in control for the month. We're kind of in the middle of that, right? This is where I say that this is it's not like a easy to read market. Okay, what do we have here from yesterday? Single prints. Okay, and you have a gap. gap is from here all the way to here. Right? So that's the gap. Can we fill that today? Don't know. Right? So, inventory. Here's the open over the overnight. There's the shorts to all the longs. Just like I said before. You got longs from here. We closed. Then you open the overnight. No shorts really. All longs. And you have supply zone right here. With week to date VWAP right here. Okay. Now this was a week high before when I looked at this right here. Because it was the gap. I would still consider this a week high. Which means that shorts were here. We came up to here and found shorts again. If we knock on it again, this could be like the move to go higher. But you got that weekday view up on supply zone there, so I'm not loving it. I'm just stating a fact. Okay, so we're like 95% net long in the overnight. Building out a lot of volume here. Okay, we're right at yesterday's high. So here's yesterday's highs, yesterday's lows, overnight low, overnight high. Okay. Now, in the overnight here in the Nasdaq, you have more of a weak low here with the overnight. So overnight here, this low, right, coincides with the most traded price of yesterday and the most traded price of the month. So if you were to break this, we probably would test the lows of yesterday. Okay, weak low is just multiple inflection points that come together, right? So that just right there, if you break the overnight low, you probably get a nice push down. Doesn't mean it's a full sell-off, but that's what happened. And you would also be underneath the monthly VWAP. Okay, so let's just get into scenarios. Let's do that. And like I said, these are not easy because this is not a gap now, but you're right at yesterday's highs. Okay, so like I said, there could be some corrective action. For myself, if let's say I was waiting for some type of long or whatever, I probably want to wait to see if the week-to-day VWAP acts as resistance in this supply zone. If we do, that the almost 100% net long and the buying from yesterday will probably liquidate, and then you're going to come down to the most traded price of the year and this demand zone. If you start playing with this and you cannot find more sellers, we're going to go back up, and this could be the fuel to maybe try to fill the gap right here. Okay, this is really the big line in the sand. This 17,700. You got monthly VWAP here and the most traded price of the year and the month. Okay, that could be the corrective activity to pull back and people to reload. Okay, now as far as the short, a couple things need to happen, right? If you're really short, you think, and you have a more of a bearish mindset, if we start to fill the gap and hit this week-to-day VWAP and supply and get rid of that resistance, come through the open. Now look at this volume in the overnight. That's buyers. If we push through that, the longs will liquidate from the overnight and from yesterday, and we're gonna test this level, right? These big levels. You're gonna get some support, but if you push through it, hold, we're gonna test that 20-day simple moving average in the futures right here and this demand zone. Okay, you might get a pop up here, but if you come back and work through that, there's single prints below here that you could take out. Okay, now like I said before, I don't know how much in love I am with any of these because it's just we're in the middle of major levels. Okay, and we're not gapping up now, but we do have a gap above us. Okay, so we just have to see. We really just have to see, and I'm going to be very patient. And again, I might not do anything today, but that would be it for me today. Okay, subscribe, set an alert if you haven't already. All right, if you enjoyed my content, please give me a thumbs up. That would be much appreciated. You could always follow me on X at Gonzo719. All right, so that's it. Some days you just don't have a clear, like, oh my God, this is like so clear. Today, I think it's murky. I think it's murky today. Oh, the one thing I really didn't get into, um, let's just look at earnings really quickly. All right. Today's Wednesday. We had Barrick Gold report, CME, Kraft Heinz, Sony. Okay, those are some of the big ones this morning. Today after the close, we have Twilio, Occidental Petroleum, Cisco, Fastly, Upwork. So that's what we got going for earnings. I just wanted to put that out there just in case anybody, I forgot to mention those things. And that would be it for me today. So everybody, I wish to have good luck today. Stay green. Sit on your hands if possible if your plan doesn't get met. And I'll see everybody tomorrow.